the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and The summer transfer market is really hotting up in Serie A, so we will be discussing some of the biggest transfer stories today. Victor Osimhen is getting closer to PSG and could, according to the Italian media, complete that move potentially as early as this week, which will free up money and space for Romelu Lukaku to join Napoli. Juventus star Matias Soulé has agreed to join Roma. That deal also could, if they can agree on the price, they're getting close, be completed this week as well. Is that the right move for him, for Roma? Are Juventus making a mistake by selling him? We will also tell the story of newly promoted Como, who are having an incredible transfer market and are on the brink of signing France legend Raphael Varane. We'll be talking about a few other little transfer talking points. We'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. Same price, same terms. For all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We're also on YouTube as well. Subscribe to us there. We're approaching 3,000 subscribers now. All of that really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. So let's get into today's show. So Victor Osimhen has agreed personal terms with PSG, 5-year contract worth 14 million euros a season. To complete the deal, PSG and Napoli need to agree on a transfer fee. PSG have made it clear that they won't match Osimhen's 130 million euros release clause in his Napoli contract. It seems like PSG are more willing to pay around 100 million euros. Possibly players could be involved in that. Actually, as we were recording, there has been a report from L'Equipe, from Loic Tanzi, who is their main transfer reporter there, who has reported that Osimhen is now considering staying at Napoli and that PSG interest is cooling. I used to work with Loic Tanzi at Goal. I can call complete bullshit on that. Take it from me. Loic is unofficial PR chief for PSG. He's reporting that to do a favour for PSG to try and get the price down. I could say that almost certainly. And if I'm wrong, I'll put my hands up. I used to work for him at Goal, and I once called him out as being head of PR at PSG for never reporting anything negative on PSG. He went absolute berserk at me. He unfollowed me. We basically didn't talk after that, even though I said it jokingly to him as well. I didn't say it in a serious way. I just said, I think it was when Verratti was about to move to Barcelona that one summer when Barcelona were going big on Verratti, and PSG basically imprisoned him, basically. And Loic was putting out all kinds of bullshit about it, right? That Verratti wanted to stay and it wasn't true and all this other stuff. And anyway, lots of other negative stuff that's been going on at PSG over the years, and he never reported anything. And one time I just said, joking to him, well, everybody knows you're the unofficial PR chief for PSG. And he went absolutely berserk. So I can guarantee you PSG have asked him to do this as a favour because they're negotiating the transfer fee at the moment. And PSG are obviously trying to get that price down. It's a very, very high price. So I'm pretty certain that is what has happened here, and they will continue talks. We'll see if they can come to an agreement on the price. But what I can say for sure is Osimhen wants to leave Napoli, and Napoli cannot afford to keep Osimhen because he's on 10 million a year, and they gave him that contract last year to basically promise him, look, we'll pay you this to the end of the season to keep you. Just stay with us for another season, and then you can go. And Napoli cannot afford to pay him that amount of money. So they'll have more talks this week. Napoli are hoping to sell Osimhen to PSG this week because then it will allow them to finally bring in Romelu Lukaku, Nima. So yeah, let's see. This week could be the big week, I think, for that. But yeah, if he does leave Nima, he will leave as a Napoli legend, won't he?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. You think of when he joined and where Napoli were and how he developed under Spalletti, particularly under Spalletti, during that, culminating in that magical season, the historic Scudetto 22-23 season, 90 points, blowing everyone out of the water. His link up with Hvica Kvaratskhelia, and the way that the football they played, which in my opinion, was the best football seen in Europe that season. I think they played the most beautiful attacking football in all of Europe that season. The way that they dismantled sides, Liverpool, particularly at the Maradona, was fantastic. And they were a little bit unlucky in the quarterfinals of the quarter against Milan. But they had already achieved something historic. For Napoli to win the Scudetto is unbelievable. If you look at their history and where they are, and as a club and what they can do, he will be remembered fondly. I mean, capocannoniere. He should have been MVP that season as well. I don't think Hvica Kvaratskhelia was the best player that season. I think Hvica was the best under-21 player that season, and Osimhen was the MVP that season, as well as being capocannoniere. But he scored, I think, 76 goals in just over 130 games, and I think he would have scored much more if it weren't for a number of injuries. And it was obvious he was going to leave Napoli. He was never going to stay there forever. I think we all know he wants to go to the Premier League. I think he himself is the reason he's not getting that Premier League move. For many a meltdown, embarrassing meltdowns, not just on social media, but lots of things. The image of him celebrating his birthday in Nigeria, throwing money at a woman during COVID when everyone was locked down, and then contracting COVID. He obviously grew and developed from that, became professional, but since then, his arguing with people on social media, attacking them, his Instagram lives where he yells into the camera like an unhinged, like a crazy person. Whether it's the Nigerian national team captain, whether it's a journalist, whether it's whoever it is, he's a loose cannon. And I think that's the main reason Premier League clubs, together with the injuries, feel, yes, fantastic player, fantastic talent, not many strikers at his level about, but is it worth the hassle? And going to PSG is not, he's played in the French league before, remember he came from France before he joined Napoli. So I think this is where he ends up because of the nonsense off the pitch. It is time for him to leave. I think it's good for Napoli as well, because it was clear he was unhappy. Last season, we saw a bunch of times when he was sulking. Some of that, of course, I think Aurelio De Laurentiis did not handle that very well, not appointing a real sporting director to replace Giuntoli, thinking he could do it himself. Those infamous words that he reportedly would have told Thiago Motta, that when Thiago Motta asked Aurelio who the sporting director is going to be, he said, "What do you need a sporting director for? I'm here." Lots of nonsense like that became kind of just made his tenure at Napoli. It was clear it was finished, that relationship. But he will leave as a Napoli legend. He will forever be loved at Napoli, and he's got that kind of crazy streak to him, which I think really speaks to Napoli fans as well, because they know that their city and their club is a little bit insane too.
Yeah.
So I think he will leave as a legend.
Maybe the greatest African player in Serie A ever. Certainly the best goal scorer.
I still hold
scorer.
George Weah. For me, George Weah is at another level. Will always be, as far as African players go. in Serie A. I think George Weah was just, something was just surreal how good he was. But he's not, Samuel Eto'o. I mean, what he did as well. Like there's quite a few to pick from, but
he's a top
Osimhen,
scorer in Africa anyway by quite some distance as well. I think
yeah.
so. He's had a great time. I think it is the time to move on now. Napoli will make a profit as well, even though one of the most shadiest transfers ever when they bought him. He gets his move to PSG. He gets a bigger salary, so everyone wins really financially, and well, I say everyone wins. That brings us on nicely to who will be the replacement, because once this move goes through, if it does go through, Romelu Lukaku will be signed as his replacement, as Osimhen's replacement from Chelsea. Napoli will pay Chelsea, it seems, around 25 million euros, quite a lot of money for a 31-year-old, including add-ons. And he's already agreed personal terms, 3-year contract worth around 10 million gross per season, which will take advantage of the growth decree. He will be, of course, reunited with Antonio Conte again.
But the growth decree, I think it's just so people understand, it's no longer valid. But this is because the growth decree. You have to remember, he was at Inter, not like when they started using it. It's for a certain period of time, so that people don't say, "Oh, I thought that the Decreto Crescita was cancelled." It has been cancelled. But since when he joined Inter, it's for a certain fixed period of time you can use it for. So they're kind of using it from that point, just so we don't have people, saying, "Oh, how can they use that?" No, they can't.
Yeah, very strange, isn't it, that he left and then.
Well, look, the growth decree was very simply put. You had to stay in Italy for at least 2 or 3 years continuously in order to take advantage of it. But then if you come back to Italy, it continued for like, I think, a period of 5 years or 6 years or something like that. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically saying this is not a new application. It goes back to his time when he was at Inter, like, because retroactively you can't cancel it, because it would, in a stroke of a pen, lots of people would have to pay a ridiculous amount of money overnight, and you can't do that. So new growth decree relief won't be given, if you know what I mean. So he's using the old, like before the law change, just to clarify that, so that people wondering how that is possible, that's how it is. But the biggest winner, after a few.
Well, I wanted to ask you. Let me put the question to you. What do you think, Nima? Lukaku, 31 now, not been the same player since leaving Inter the first time, which is 3 years ago. 30, yeah, like I said, 31, quite a big fee, 25 million for a 31-year-old, big salary. What do you think of this deal for Napoli? Can Conte bring the Lukaku magic work? Is it worth it? Is this the right replacement for Osimhen? What do you think?
I think after having made an endless stream of absolutely stupid career choices, Romelu Lukaku has just essentially won the lottery with Antonio Conte going to Napoli. Let's remember who we're talking about, a player who looked completely finished for large parts of his tenure at Roma last season, like an ex-player. It's a gamble by Napoli. It's a gamble by Antonio Conte, but he's only 31. The only manager who has ever managed to get something that resembles or is world class adjacent out of Romelu Lukaku is Antonio Conte. They know each other inside out. Antonio Conte knows exactly how to push him, knows exactly how to motivate him, knows exactly how to use him, more importantly. And he will be fundamental for Napoli in how they attack, even if he doesn't score that many goals, even if he's not as quick as he used to be. He's still quick. He's not as quick as he used to be. His physique will not be a problem because Conte will take care of that. And he's already taught him how to play with his back against the goal. In fact, it was after Antonio Conte that he continued to play like that. And it's probably the only aspect of his game where he's the best in the world at now, because even the penalties he's not very good at either anymore. But playing with his back against the goal, holding up play, you don't go past Romelu Lukaku. Nobody can stop him. And we know how Antonio Conte's Calcio Verticale plays. He needs that guy. He needs that. And I look at Hvicha, I look at Raspadori, and I look at an attack that together with Lukaku, even if Lukaku won't score as many goals, but the others will, that's a very potent Serie A attack. Because the point will be to use Lukaku as the all-important person to hold up the ball when that all-important first long ball is played up to, which is imperative in how Antonio Conte breaks press when under pressure, his team's under pressure. The question is, who will be his Brozovic? I think Lobotka can shoulder that, even though he's not exactly Brozovic, but he's a midfielder in that kind of a mold. I don't think
I'm not sure about that. I'll be honest, but that's a debate for another.
But I'm not saying that he is Brozovic. I'm saying he's a midfielder.
He can't run.
In that
Lobotka. He can't cover any ground. He's too slow. So that's an interesting one. But we'll debate.
We'll
discuss that.
Let me finish. I didn't say he was Brozovic in terms of covering ground. No one can cover ground like Marcelo Brozovic. He literally has the world record for covering the most ground in football games. Twice the most.
He can't cover any ground at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's Brozovic. No, I'm talking about in terms of build-up play and passing and creativity and being a spider in the web kind of midfielder. Lobotka is a player in that mold, but he will need midfielders around him who do the running for him, like what happened when Vidal and Pirlo played together at Juventus under Antonio Conte. He has Anguissa there. So there's a pattern, there's a skeleton emerging here of the Antonio Conte's Napoli. And it's an interesting pattern. It's not at all typical to anything Aurelio De Laurentiis usually does. If you look at the key players, barring Hvicha and Raspadori, they're all north of 25, 26 years old, which is not usually how things have looked under Aurelio. But it is a statement. This is Aurelio De Laurentiis having to do things this way after the disaster that was last season. I don't think Lukaku will become capocannoniere, but I do think that Lukaku will be able to create all sorts of problems for Serie A defenses.
He did still score 21 goals last season, despite his at times he didn't look the same Lukaku. There's no doubt about that. Especially the second half of the season, I thought he was probably one of the only ones after De Rossi came that actually didn't look as good. But many of those goals, I guess, were in the Europa League as well. I think it was like 13 in Serie A. So when you look at it that way, but it's still 21 goals. Is not many people get above 20 goals for a season in all competitions. He does. He doesn't have that explosive speed that he used, and he will be used more as a wall, like you said. But Kvara and Lukaku will be interesting duo, definitely.
I think because of Lobotka's limitations physically. In terms of running, I think it's a mistake by Conte to play a 3-4-2-1, because I think that's what he will want to do, play a 3-4-2-1 with Raspadori and Kvara and Lukaku. I think that's a mistake. I think he should focus on a 3-5-2. I know that means one of Raspadori and Kvara will be on the bench, but I think that's more preferable in terms of balance, and I think he will realize that when he plays there, because of the fact that if you play a 3-5-2, then you can use Lobotka more similarly to how he used Pirlo at Juve, with two midfielders doing the running for him. And I think Conte's smart enough to realize that.
I agree with that because I think Lobotka is the most anti-Conte player ever. But then you said the same about Pirlo, and he somehow made it work.
Yeah, he made it work because he had two players to run for him.
Yeah,
who did his running for him. And I think that's how he's going to use Lobotka. I think he will understand pretty quickly that yes, 3-4-2-1 that's the latest Conte 3.0 update, but at the same time, he doesn't need to worry about that because he's only got one game a week. He's only got the Serie A and Coppa Italia to contest. He doesn't need to worry about European football. If he stays past this season at Napoli, then he can talk about, okay, I need a new midfielder to partner Anguissa because Lobotka can't do it, and then he wants to play a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1. But for now, it has to be a 3-5-2, in my opinion, because you get the most out of the squad that's available to you. And also, frankly put, I think you develop Kvara as well to learn to play more centrally. I think one of the biggest winners in all of this will be Kvara if he understands and is willing to take in what Conte says, because Kvara is a natural raw talent. There's no doubt about that. But I've always felt that he somehow lacks in tactical discipline. I know Spalletti liked to use him and give, likes to give his players attacking, freedom and to express themselves and tries to accommodate the system where that flourishes. But that's kind of, I think, has led to Kvara being so easily read, and that's why he struggled. With Conte comes a system man. And if Kvara can incorporate that into his game and develop his intelligence tactically and discipline tactically, then we're talking about a player who can start to express fully the incredible talent that he has. And I know we both agree on that.
Yeah.
So I think,
well, I thought he was
Kvara,
I thought he was excellent at the Euros. I thought he was really, really good at the Euros, Kvara. And Conte, maybe Conte sees him as his kind of
Lautaro.
his son, maybe.
Yeah, Son, Lautaro, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted Raspadori when he was at Inter already. Buongiorno in the middle of that defense is unbelievably smart. Is such an intelligent signing. I still have question marks around the goalkeeper, but then again, I've seen Conte win titles with Handanovic, who was semi-retired in goal. And he can make it work. He's a system guy, and he will provide defensive solidity and stability. I'm a little bit surprised that Jesper Lindström and Ostigård are in talks to be sold too, because if anything, Lindström is a counter-attacking player. I thought he would suit perfectly in the Conte system, and Ostigård is very good in the air, and I thought he could be a good rotation. I mean, I'd rather keep Ostigård and get rid of Juan Jesus. I'll tell you that much, but we'll see. Again, Juan Jesus has never worked under Antonio Conte, so maybe he can have one last renaissance in his career as well. All I will say is that with Lukaku coming in, with Osimhen leaving, giving Kvara a contract extension, which they absolutely have to do, Raspadori staying, what will happen with Politano, the wing back, Spinazzola coming in, we've seen him do wonders with Ashley Young and Victor Moses in the past. They still need one or two more, I think, on those flanks. The defense, right, left, centre back, who plays there, the goalkeeper. What I'm saying is there is still work to be done, but there is a skeleton here that at Serie A level is absolutely more than good enough to finish top four. And not only that, with one game a week, using what we've seen with Conte before, they are a dark horse to win the Serie A.
Yeah, no, Bonucci and Buffon have both seen them say that they think Napoli are top two this season.
Yeah, I'm with them. I agree 100% with that. Antonio Conte's problem is that there aren't enough hours in the day to prepare for 3 games a week. That's the problem.
I think it's more physical. I think it's physical as well. I think it's both. I think physical is the biggest one, because he can't. The players he's never learnt that. He's never learnt how to, because he
can't learn that.
He's never been able to learn it, unfortunately. How to
and it's going to be a fascinating season to follow, because I think Napoli will probably concede the least amount of goals in the Serie A. I think up with, if Inter's defense, who I think is weakened this season, with Acerbi and De Vrij, who are just a year older, and they haven't replaced anyone, and Buchanan's injury really threw a spanner in the works. I think Inter will concede more goals, but I think that as things looking right now, I think the most clean sheets, the least conceded amount of goals, will be between Inter and Napoli for sure. The question then becomes in attack, and we've seen what Kvara can do. He's not exactly old by any stretch of the imaginations, so to get Lukaku and Kvara to working in that Conte system, the Calcio Verticale, that becomes imperative. and Conte will have a week to prepare for.
I have no doubts about Clara. In fact, we saw Georgia playing counter-attacking football, and he was electric. Yeah. Clara can play in any system, so I have no doubts about it. In terms of counter-attacking or front foot football. He can do both. So I've no doubt. And look, we have to move on though, Nima.
Just one final point.
Yeah,
Chelsea finished 10th or 9th that season before Conte came, and he won this title with them.
Yeah, well, Juventus finished 7th as well.
Yeah, no, I mean he's so. I know this was in the past, but if the past is anything to go by, just by virtue of what's happening now, it's only July 22nd, and he's got two of his most important pieces. If he gets Lukaku and Buongiorno in, then he, it's going to be, they're going to finish top 2. Can they win it? Well, that would cement Conte as one of the greatest Serie A coaches of all time, because to win it with 3 different clubs, the way, taking all 3 of them, coming from horrible seasons, horrible eras, where they've been nowhere near titles for at least 5-6 years in Inter and Juve's case. And now with Napoli, okay, only 2 years, but the previous season they finished 10th. Like, that's, if he were to do that, then he would cement himself as one of the greatest Serie A coaches of all time.
Oh yeah, and how many coaches have won with more than 2 teams in the Scudetto? So
and then the arguing will begin. Then he will ruin the Scudetto party as he always does, because he can't get out of his way, because he then looks to the Champions League and will start moaning and pissing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's enjoy this telenovela that we've been served for the next 12 months.
And according to Loic Tanzi, the Osimhen deal's not even going to go through anyway. So what are we even talking about? Exactly. Right, let's move on. Let's move on to a deal that should go through for certain. Is Matias Soulé. Roma are now getting closer to signing Soule from Juventus. They've increased their offer. They already had one offer rejected already. Their latest offer is 28 million euros plus bonuses. Leicester City have made a much higher bid than Roma, but Soule has made it clear that he only wants to join Roma. He doesn't want to move to the Premier League. Leicester and West Ham and another team I'm forgetting are interested in signing him from the Premier League. But he's made it clear he wants to join Roma. He wants to play with his Argentine teammates, Dybala, Paredes. And Juventus have had to accept that they're probably going to have to allow him to join a Serie A rival, maybe get less money than they would have got from a Premier League team. Juventus did want originally 40 million at first, but it now seems they're going to have to accept more, kind of 30 to 35. Personal terms have been agreed. Soule has agreed personal terms, 2029 contract, 2 million a year plus bonuses. Roma are confident that a deal can be completed this week, and they're probably going to make a new bid imminently, in which they're hopeful that will be the bid to finalise the deal. So, I mean, this is a transfer that I think we can confidently say is going to happen now. So let's start off from Roma's point of view, Nima. Is this a good signing for Roma? Is this the right signing for them?
It is a fantastic signing by Roma. It is exactly the kind of transfer. I mean, if I put my Roma glasses on, I am elated with this. This is the kind of thing that kickstarts the Daniele De Rossi era for real. It allows Roma to bring in a young player with immense talent that allows the Roma fan base, the Roma Piazza, to start to dream and look forward, as opposed to, and they think of, when they think of Dybala, when they think of Soule, they see a future. They see a very exciting season. They see lots of quality. They see goals. It's a very exciting move, and and the fact that Daniele De Rossi has been able to infatuate Soule to the point where he's denying going to the Premier League, even though they pay him more money, is very interesting, because that again shows what a talismanic coach he is, in terms of character-wise, De Rossi. Without having accomplished anything at coaching level, really, he's winning players, and because the players all talk amongst themselves, and that means that De Rossi has has a fantastic reputation amongst players.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's a
and
coup for Roma. My question is tactically less about Soule, more about Dybala. Like, how do you fit these two players in together?
you play Dybala as a
Um,
false nine.
well, that's the question. Like, it's an interesting one. I want to see how it works because we've seen it. Like, even if you take Spain, the Spain national team, in the second half of that final when they took off Morata, they brought on Oyarzabal and played him as a false nine. Um, and and they didn't have that kind of depth in behind, but then they had two flying wingers that provided that direct threat. So are Roma going to try something similar?
I
Maybe,
think so. I
but
think
but
so.
it's always me thinking of Dybala as a false nine, very slow. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That's the question for me. Kind of tactically how it all ties together. Um, and that's up to De Rossi to work out. If we're looking at it singularly from the player, it's a coup for Roma. I think it's a good move for Soule. I like the fact that he stayed. Obviously, for Serie A, it's good, but I like the fact that he stayed in an environment that he already knows, make it easier for him to settle than taking that risk, going to the Premier League, different type of football, going to a newly promoted team that have obviously issues off the financial issues off the pitch and everything. So there's always that risk there of your career, whittling away. Whereas I think it's a good move for Soule. I think he's made the right move, staying in Serie A for sure. As for Juventus, it's a difficult one for Juventus because I think that he's financially he could be worth double in the future. I've said this a long time. I could see him, if he's 30 million, 35 million now, he could easily be 50, 60 million in a couple of years. So Juventus could have taken the long road there. Also the question is if they are going to sell Soule, well, they're going to have to replace him. Who are they going to sign as the right, let's say the right winger to replace him? Well, Sancho. If it's Sancho, maybe fair enough. But then some of the other names that I've seen mentioned, I'm not sure if they're upgrades on Soule, to be honest. So that is the key thing is going to be whether it's a good move for Juventus. Like the player that they get in to replace him has to be better than him and not cost more than what they're paying for him. Obviously, the reason why they're selling him is they need that money to complete the Koopmeiners deal. They're looking to make around 60 million from the sales of Soule and Huijsen. So they're making that sacrifice to bring in Koopmeiners, who I think is a guarantee. And that's why they're doing it. Motta, apparently, from what I'm hearing, wanted to keep Soule. He likes him. He thinks he can do really great things with him. But he's accepted that Koopmeiners is a bigger priority and that they need to sell him. So it's kind of, for Juventus fans, I think it's a bit... Juventus fans are a bit torn by this one for a number of reasons, if you know where I'm coming from.
No, I understand that, but just before we move to the Juve thing, I mean, I'm looking at the Roma squad now, and for me, when I analyze it, I feel like it lacks a little bite. That was prior to Soule coming, because I think Soule is an attacking goal threat. I think, we'll see what happens, Tammy Abraham, if he stays or goes, but it's an interesting squad. It's a very interesting squad, and it's, Baldanzi will have to be integrated more. What happens with Pellegrini?
I think he's a goner. Baldanzi's a goner. I think completely. How the hell is he going to play with Dybala and Soule? He's got no chance. He's done. He's
I
done
don't
for
think so.
me.
No, I don't
Unless
think
he's
so.
happy to play a few minutes in the Europa League, and he's not going to ever get a game. When's he ever going to play? He's not going to play in the same team as those two. So at best, he's going to be a sub at best. So I think this is a knife to the heart for Baldanzi. This transfer.
I'm not sure. I think when you look at those positions, if you're going to play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, there's four attacking positions. You have Pellegrini, you have Baldanzi, you have Tammy, you have Soule, you have Dybala. I see quite an interesting merry-go-round here. I think there's a way for De Rossi to integrate all of them into this in some way or another, and I'm really keen to see how he does it. I don't think automatically Baldanzi is a goner. I think it's more a case of creating an environment where all the players have to kind of earn their spot in to start, and no one's guaranteed anything, which is a situation that Roma have not really been in for quite some time. But it's interesting, and that kind of also brings what we had on our Q&A pod, a question about Pellegrini as a regista, because Pellegrini sure as hell won't be playing in the number 10 or any of the wide areas, I think. And we've seen the best out of him as a mezzala so far. And even there, some would argue that he's too slow. So what is De Rossi thinking here?
Depends what system he plays, what formation he plays as well.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so exciting and so interesting to follow. Because you know how I feel about De Rossi. He blew me away last season, tactically. Not just because of the results, but the fact that because the man I saw at Spal and what he tried to do there, he looked abysmal. It looked pathetic. And when I interviewed Joe Tacopina, he said, listen, the football he wants to play is too advanced for the players and the levels that we have in Serie B. But he was adamant that he's a great coach and will be a great coach because of the way he called him a tactical genius, if I remember correctly. And then we see him at Roma and the football he played for large parts, and because he had a higher quality of players to play that football, they expressed it, and it looked absolutely brilliant. This is his first pre-season. This is his first mercato. I am very, very intrigued and excited to see what De Rossi can do, because I really think he is one of those future coaches in Italian football that has potentially a mega future ahead of him.
I think he ideally wants to play with wingers.
I think so too.
And
I think that's all we know.
He's kind of intimated that last season in a kind of indirect criticism of Dybala, even though he didn't mean it, where he kind of said having Dybala means I can't play with the way that I want to play. But that was when Lukaku was around, and Lukaku was the number 9. So this season, I'm thinking maybe he tries the 4-3-3 with Dybala and a false 9. Again, I'm just not sure if that can work. I don't know. I don't know. With the lack of depth behind in the central position, it would require 2 flying wingers. So they're probably going to need to. Then they need a left winger as well, because who's going to play on the left wing with pace?
Well, do they though?
Well, who plays there?
Thing. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you could play Baldanzi there as an inverted left winger.
He's slower than Pellegrini. He's one of the slowest players ever.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to play as a winger per se.
Well, then you don't create. Then you have no depth at all. That's the problem.
Well, that depends on who the fullback is. You see, this is what I'm saying. It depends on who the fullback is down the left.
You need depth from your wingers. You need depth from your attackers. You can't have zero pace in attack. It's just not going to work.
Depends on how you build play. There's no. It depends.
But then you have a slow build up. You don't have a direct fast build up. That's what El Shaarawy definitely won't. Well, El Shaarawy won't bring that. That's what De Rossi wants. He wants he wants depth in his attack, and that for me that's the biggest issue. I mean, Soule will provide that on the right to an extent, and he can dribble and he can beat his man, and that's great. But who does it from the left? Did they play a 4-3-3 or do they go 4-3-2-1? Possibly they go for that maybe. But for me, that's the biggest question mark for me.
I think there's lots of question marks. I think it depends on how you can form your troops on the pitch in many different ways, and it's about making it balanced and work. You don't need to always have pacey wingers on every side. Like you can mitigate for that. You can get the most out of certain players by playing them in certain positions, and then mitigate that by having someone cover that side. And then, do you know what I mean? It becomes a bit tricky, but if you're not a Premier League club, these are the choices you're left to do. And that's why it's a very challenging job, a Serie A club for most coaches, because you don't have an infinite amount of money, and you have to show your tactical level of your tactical knowledge and understanding of the game to mitigate for weaknesses, because every team has weaknesses in the Serie A which they can't throw money at. Unfortunately, that's the reality we live in. So I'm very excited to see what Roma do, what De Rossi does, and how he formulate, how he form what more business they do, and
I think
how
I think they will try and sell Tammy Abraham. They will try and sign another attacker with a bit of pace. Because
I
I
just
just
don't see anyone buying Tammy
I
Abraham.
foresee as much as I think is a great signing. I foresee if they stick with their current attackers, including Soule, I think they're going to have a real big tactical problem with the lack of depth and pace in attack. It's going to be a problem for Roma. That's what I foresee.
No, I think that there's no doubt that there's a problem with lack of depth because there's not enough players.
No depth,
But
as in depth tactically, depth on the pitch, as in getting in behind. That kind of depth, not depth as in depth in the squad.
well, I think there's a depth in the squad problem as well, just by
Yeah,
looking at that squad as it looks now. My issue is I don't think anyone is going to buy Tammy Abraham. I think that's the problem. So I think
no,
they're going to
coming off
have
an
to.
ACL, no.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to pay for that? It's not going to happen. So they're going to have to. I think they've come to accept that he's going to stay at least another season, and next summer is when they'll try to sell him. So I think they're building with a season with Tammy, which is good because that good in the sense that, well, that's a player, that's a striker.
I
So
think they will sign him. I mean, they've just lost out on Nesri to
yeah,
Fenerbahce's Jose Mourinho. So I think that does show that they are trying to sign
I think they
another
will sign more
attacker.
players, absolutely, and attacking players for sure. But I still don't see them selling Tammy Abraham. I just don't see anyone buying
Well,
him.
but on the Juventus point though, was it the right call for Juventus to sell?
I think the biggest winner in this is Federico Chiesa
Mm.
because I think now he's going to stay, and he's been handed a new lifeline
Mm.
to his career
I think
at
Juventus would
Juve.
have rather have sold Chiesa than Soule, and they've actually been also been
Absolutely,
forced to sell Soule again, maybe partly against their will, because I think there's just no one that's prepared to pay for Chiesa.
exactly,
I think
exactly,
it's more that than
exactly.
Chiesa wanting to stay.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's why
Yeah.
he's a winner
Mm.
because he wasn't convinced by the Roma move. We know that. Um, and he will play at a club that plays in the Champions League. He's on his last year. Remember this now. He can really showcase himself and he will be important for Juve because out of necessity, not out of choice.
Mm.
So he will be a player that starts for Juve, and he has been handed a golden opportunity here um, to make it work. On his last year of his contract, which is the best shopping window that you can imagine.
And there's no
And
excuses now.
there really isn't.
This is it.
This
This
is
is
it,
his last
exactly.
life now.
No, it really is his last life. And it'll be interesting to follow to see. I have to be honest. I want to go on the record and continue to say that I think he can still play as a winger, but he can't be the winger that he was before the ACL because I don't think he's got that explosive, string to him anymore. He has to use his football IQ more now
Mm.
to beat his players, to beat his opponents. But it's going to be interesting. There's lots of fascinating talking points. I look at Juve and I see, okay, the central midfield is it really is so interesting with Luis and Thuram and Koopmeiners coming in. The defense is a question mark as well. Okay, does he go with Gatti to the right? I mean, what happens there?
Mm.
Bremer is going to stay, but can he play in a back four? Can he make it work? Motta. There's lots of interesting
Yeah. Well,
question marks.
Todibo, I think, will probably come in as the alternative to Calafiori.
Mm,
That deal could be done this week as well, potentially, if
mm.
they can agree on a price. Um, Cabal, which they hijacked off Inter, I think would probably be more of a backup, I would imagine.
I have to
He's
praise that move. I have to praise that is an intelligent Giuntoli move. He is a very strong. He's a mean sob in terms of defenders. There aren't very many mean sob defenders at around, let alone at Juve or Inter. I was annoyed that Inter lost out on that because
But he was never going to be a first team player for either
no, but
club,
it's not
really, is
about that.
he?
But yeah, well, you'll be surprised because that is a player who I think it's about different roles and balance in a team.
Motta can develop him like he did
Motta can
Calafiori,
develop
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You never
Motta
know.
can develop him, and he's already getting a player who is a mean, vicious, like he's a pain in the butt like the way that he's on opponents and attackers, winning the ball high up the pitch, which Motta likes. You know, I saw stats saying he's almost the 3 best per 90 minutes last season in Serie A for winning the ball high up the pitch. Aerially, he's a beast. I think it was first.
Yeah, aerially, he's great.
And so, look, yes, he will start. He's not coming as a marquee signing, but I think it's an intelligent signing. I think that's a player with lots of potential that can really explode under Thiago Motta. So don't, watch out for that. That's a clever signing. So no, they're not. There's lots of interesting things happening at Juve as well, for sure. But one is, of course, Chiesa's last chance saloon for Federico Chiesa, not just at Juve but at top level football, and it's going to be the biggest talking point. I mean, think about it. If he does well, what do Juve do? Do they extend this contract? Give him what he wants, or do they just let him run it out?
Well, or do they do that bridge contract that they were discussing as well? Give him a year extension for now, which is what they were discussing, and then which would make it till 2026, and then that gives them time to buys time
to resolve it. Yeah,
to do a proper contract. We'll see. We have to talk about Como, Nima. They are maybe the story of the Serie A summer transfer market. The whole Como project is really a fascinating one. They were promoted from Serie B last season. This will be their first time in Serie A since the 2002-2003 season, when they were relegated with one of the worst ever performances in Serie A. They won 4 matches and they then completely fell apart. The club did. Relegation after relegation. They went all the way down to Serie D. They went bankrupt twice. But then in 2019, they were bought by the Indonesian tobacco giants Jarum Group, who are it makes Como the wealthiest club, the richest club in Serie A. They're the wealthiest ownership group in Serie A. The Robert Budi and Michael Hartono brothers, who are the owners of Jarum Group. And together, these brothers boast a combined net worth of $48 billion. It's absolutely insane, the money that they have. And they have big plans for Como. And we're already starting to see the Como project take shape. I mean, they've got some really high-profile figures within Como. Cesc Fabregas is the coach. He's just taken over from Usain Roberts after getting his coaching badges. Roberts has moved to become head of development. They've got some high-profile shareholders, including Thierry Henry. And in the transfer market, they're really making a big splash. They've already made some notable signings. Andrea Bellotti, Andrea Dossena, Pepe Reina, Alberto Moreno. They're going to sign Paul Lopez, the goalkeeper, if he hasn't already. I'm not sure if that's official yet, but they're signing Paul Lopez, the former Roma goalkeeper. And they are, this week, about to sign Raphael Varane on a free transfer, the France World Cup winning legend, former Real Madrid legend, and former Manchester United player. They're also they're also in negotiations right now for Arthur Melo on loan from Juventus. They're looking at Anthony Martial. They were linked with Mats Hummels before they went for Varane. So they have some really, really big plans, don't they, Nima?
They certainly do. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's one of those things where, yeah, cool, little tiny Como get all these big names when they return to the Serie A. But on the other hand, it's a little bit, I'm not too happy about it, because this is exactly what we've spoken about. The smaller teams investing in experienced older players with large salaries instead of giving Italian youth a chance. If they're not going to get a chance at Como, they're sure as hell ain't going to get a chance at Juve, Inter, Milan, Napoli, Roma, and I don't like that. I think this is an aspect of Italian football, and it's not just Como. This has always been the case in Italian football, that when new clubs come up, to the Serie A, they try to bring in 1 or 2 or 3 more experienced players to offer some stability to the project in order to avoid relegation. So for Italian football, this isn't good. Long term, it isn't good, because it's another club that looks away from youth. But for Como, it's fun. For Como fans, it's really, really fun. I mean, they bring in lots of big names to this tiny little beautiful place, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth. If you've ever been lucky to be there, you know what I'm talking about. It's an absolutely stunning place. I mean, I know many of Inter Milan players and stars through the years live in Como.
Well, Lake Como. I mean, George Clooney. I mean, you can go on and on with the number of celebrities and the rich and the famous who go there. I mean, it's a beautiful location, isn't it? The stadium is just right,
Right by the lake.
yeah, right by the lake, isn't it?
Yeah, Giuseppe Sinigallia. It was refurbished in 2002. It first opened in 1927. It's right by the
Do you know who
lake.
built the stadium?
Sorry,
Do you know who built that stadium?
Benito Mussolini. It was
Yeah.
built on the request of Benito Mussolini, and it was named after an Italian rower and war hero Giuseppe Sinigallia, who was a native of Como. In
They might not play there though.
2004.
What's going on with the stadium? It's not. It's a bit unclear at the moment whether they're actually going to play there, isn't it? Because it doesn't meet the
Well, it doesn't
capacity.
meet the minimum capacity requirements set up by the Serie A, and so there's work required in order to upgrade and play there. It's because that's what I said. It's a very old stadium. It's 1927. The current capacity is 13,602.
Is it good? I mean, you've said there about the youth there, and you're right. Having said that, though, when you've got 48 billion uh, dollars among your ownership group, then it doesn't surprise you that you're going to try and go for instant success, really. But then maybe, I guess time will tell. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe they should be looking also to build more from the bottom in terms of younger players. And I know Cesc Fabregas has talked about that and said that there is a plan to create the infrastructure. But it doesn't seem like that based on their signings so far this summer. They're going for
Sorry, but I mean, you're looking at the squad now. They've signed Belotti.
Yeah,
He's not exactly a teenager. Cutrone is 26 now, but he's if he counts at you as youth, that's part of the
Pepe
problem.
Reina's 41.
Yeah, Simone Verdi, who's had a very weird career. They've got what's his name, Daniele Basselli. I think they just bought Alberto Dossena. I mean, it's like it reads like a 30+ all stars of Serie A of the last 10 years, and it's like I get again why they're doing it, but this is what we keep saying: if youth can't even get a chance at a place like Como, then what are we doing here? It's
Yeah. But
so.
is it good for Serie A? Forget I mean, it's not good maybe for the Italy national team, that's for sure. But is it good for the Serie A to have
Yes.
have a new club with all this money that can go out and we'll see what they're how ambitious. We'll see whether in a year or 2 years time whether they are challenging Juventus, Milan, and Inter for when it comes to the transfer market to because they can certainly afford it.
Yeah, but I just don't see that happening. I think it'll at most be 2-3 seasons of a flash in the pan, and it's a nice acquaintance. But when there's not very many people living in Cuomo, and they don't exactly have a huge fan base. So no, look, for me, it's. I mean, when I think of Cuomo, I think of Stefano Borganovo, and Don Corneliusson, and the Milan, Claudio Borg, the Brazilian Milan striker who played for Milan as well, and
Argentine, yeah.
yeah, sorry, Argentine. Yeah, I mean, I look at those guys, I think of them, and it's like that iconic era they had back then, and
In the 80s, yeah.
course, the sad
Terceo was
stories.
my guy, the Brazilian.
Yeah,
He was amazing.
and of course Stefano Borgonovo. The sad story of him and how he passed away. And no, so it is a club with history. It's a club with pedigree and some interesting, but I'm happy they're back, because it's nice to have these. It gets boring if you have the same clubs over and over, just coming up and going down. You want that kind of freshness, because there's such a depth of historical clubs and piazze in Italy that it's nice for them to show off at the biggest Italian football stage. But there is, look, I think it's a very attractive place to come to live to. You know, because of,
Very expensive.
well, it's the most luxurious, one of the most exclusive places in all of Europe. Um, Property there is very expensive, but it's a beautiful place to live. It's very calm. I genuinely can't recommend enough visiting it if you go there. It is absolutely, the place is tiny. It's got this kind of like village feel to it. Very calm, very clean, very beautiful, and just a nice all round nice vibe around it.
Mm.
There's lots of things. It's right close to the
Could you imagine
Alps.
if Como like got into Europe and then they started playing like, I don't know, Chelsea or something? Like the
I
fans
think
will
UEFA would put a
the
stop to that.
fans will flock over to Como, like just
No,
like
they'd move.
smash up the place.
No. They'd move that to the San Siro. There's no way they'd play them there.
Could you
There's
imagine?
no way they would allow that. There's no way they'd allow. They'd go to the San Siro. They just, rent the San Siro just
The
like
lake all
Bologna
gets
did.
polluted, and like, could
You
you?
just want English football hooligans to trash up places and
I'm
throw
just
chairs.
picturing it, you know. Well, it's not just the English. I mean, they're the worst. But I mean, the Dutch. I mean, like Feyenoord. I mean, imagine Feyenoord Como. I mean, they smashed up Rome. They'd smash up.
No, I don't see it. I'd see UEFA putting a stop to that before it even gets that far. But no, it's a fun club, and it's going to be interesting to see what Fabregas now that he's the head coach taking over from O'Shan
Mm.
Roberts, who's now becoming head of development, I think.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, and he's got a great history at that. And Fabregas is. I am interested to see Fabregas. He's very as a pundit. He's fantastic. He's very
yeah.
very intelligent. His thinking, the way he thinks about the game, but that doesn't always translate as a manager. It's very different. You know, being knowledgeable and having a good understanding and conceptually being good. You've got to be able to get your ideas across, and there's lots more to managing than just ideas. So it is interesting. It'd be very interesting to see how Fabregas does in the first game of the season for Como is against Juventus. Uh,
Away, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, I mean it's against Thiago Motta's Juventus, and obviously
Mm.
Fabregas, Motta. They played against each other in
Mm.
Euro 2012 final. So that's a great storyline to start the
No,
season.
it's a beautiful storyline, and it's a tiny little club. I have a friend who we've interviewed who is from Como. He used to play for Como's youth team as a goalkeeper, Francesco Fontana, who's now Bordo Campo giornalista at the Zone for Serie A. So he was very, very happy and excited to see his Como go back up to the Serie A. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it certainly is. Right, we'll just race through. First of all, if you haven't listened to it, Lazio, we did a transfer, or Nima did a transfer deep dive last week with Valerio Marcangeli, who's one of the top Lazio transfer experts, talking all about, as part of our series, talking all about the transfer plans for Lazio, who's coming in, who's going out, the manager, everything about them. We're planning to have this week a Milan transfer deep dive later this week. So look out for that. Milan are working on a number of transfers right now. Yusuf Fofana, Strahinian Pavlovic, Nicholas Fulkrug. They're also looking for a right back. So there's players that could be leaving. And so Milan are definitely one of the teams to watch. So we don't want to talk about them now. We will talk about them later this week in the transfer
Yeah,
deep
it's
dive.
going to be a full transfer deep
Yeah,
dive.
so look out for that. Another transfer deep dive we haven't done so far is Inter. We will hopefully do them later in the summer because it has been very, very quiet Inter. So very quickly, Nema, just so everybody knows, like what is going on at Inter this summer? Why is it so quiet?
Because they feel they've done their revolution last summer. They did their clean out last summer, and the players that have left, Sanchez, Sensi, Klaassen, aren't players that they weren't counting on anyway. So they've already made up for that. They did Zielinski and Taremi pretty early, so that addressed those issues. And the rest was about the contracts: Inzaghi, Barella, Lautaro. Those were the main ones. The others have already been tied up to the important players have been tied up to long-term contracts. The only thing that threw a spanner in the works. I mean, they brought in Martinez as a backup to Sommer, who's they're going to try to alternate between the two and kind of do a kind of Toldo Julio Cesar situation.
Do you like him, Martinez?
I like. I think it shows to me that Simone is not a manager who likes to sit back, but is proactive. I think what he learnt from the Onana season was that he wants, if he can have a goalkeeper that can play the ball like that, it helps him in both phases. It makes the team so much more press resistant, and it creates so much more problems for the opposition. And there is no one better than Pep Guardiola, who completely changed his tactics to adapt to Inter in the final of the Champions League because of Onana. And I think he looks at that and he goes, that's the future. And so I think Martinez, as in terms of shot stopping, is decent, but so was Jan Sommer. He's not world class by any stretch of the imagination. Yet again, in that system, it worked really, really well. And I think they've brought him on to kind of do, like I said, the Julio Cesar Toldo thing, where you bring in a goalkeeper and you slowly ease him in, and then you have Jan Sommer, as he's getting gradually older, become the backup goalkeeper so that he stays for 2-3 years and he's the backup goalkeeper, slowly changing of the guards, which I am very happy with, given what happened with Handanovic before it became an actual problem. The only problem is that they do have a central defense problem. Francesco Acerbi, 37, just came back from a groin injury. Stefan de Vrij has shown consistently that he is past his best. And with Tejon Buchanan getting injured, this was supposed to be his season, that serious injury. And I don't even consider this, I don't think we'll see him at all this season until maybe April, May at most. I really am not counting on Buchanan this season. So what we're looking at is, okay, well, they need to sort out some sort of a defender to shore up a backup defender, and Oak Tree have made it clear that they'd rather have young players for low fees and low wages who are promising, who can explode under Inzaghi, whilst Inzaghi wants someone who's ready now to just do a backup role for a year until Buchanan comes back. And that's kind of where they are. But the big thing, the most of the moves have already been done, last summer. And with Taremi and Zielinski coming in, that makes Inter even stronger compared to last season in terms of depth, which was the issue last season. But there is a problem, and the problem is in central defense and how they handle it. Do they survive another year with Acerbi de Vrij? Can Jan Bisek be molded into playing centrally? Do they play Bastoni there? Do they play Bisek to the left, Bastoni in the middle, and Pavard to the right? What do they do? Those are the discussions being had. They need to get rid of Correa. They need to get rid of all these other players that are not part of their plans. And then, because Inzaghi wants 2 players in every position. And he has that, except for in central defense, where there is some sort of a problem there, and Inter see that. And usually the way Marotta handles these situations is by stop-gapping it. Stopgap until next summer. Well, next summer, that's when they'll buy their main central defender if Inzaghi stays, because he signed a 1-year contract extension until 2026. They're going to have to go through this discussion once more with him again next summer if he has a successful season and wants to stay. So they've basically kicked the can down the road. I don't expect them to do. I mean, this notion of Kiwior coming in only on loan, Arsenal are not too keen on that.
And they did try to sign Cabal, didn't they?
Yeah, but they didn't have that kind of money that Hellas wanted, and that kind of allowed
Juventus to come in.
Yeah. So it's the same old story. People expecting Oak Tree to magically pour in money don't know what a hedge fund is and live in cloud cuckoo land. This is just a continuation, but with Canadian American owners as opposed to Chinese owners of before. One in, one out. It's financial stability, all of that. The main focus of Oak Tree, of course, is to protect their investment and make a profit when they sell. And how do they do that? By balancing the books, by sorting out the stadium project, Whether it's at San Siro where they own it and refurbish it, or if they build a new one, remains to be seen. I personally think that with everything that's happened, this could be a situation where the city of Milan lease out the San Siro to Inter or Milan, or together. We'll see who stays, but it could be a situation where they lease it for €1 for 99 years, and then the club pays for the refurbishment, and then they run it and build, develop that land, and can able to and are able to monetize it, because this company in Rome, We Build, I think they're called, who are specialized in working with build development of areas that have been given have been designated buildings of special historic and cultural significance. They've been involved in many projects in Rome, which is essentially just an open air museum, respecting those laws and not ruining those sites. And they've handed in their project to Inter and Milan, saying, look, we can actually refurbish the San Siro. If you're willing to stay, we can do it, and we can meet your demands. We'll see what the clubs say. But I mean, that's the priority here. It's been a very quiet summer because Inter, again, did everything they needed to do last summer. Now it's about tweaking. The revolution was last year. This is now about tweaking, and finding the right balance. And that's why they're so calm and quiet, because everything is just going according to plan. Knock on wood from an Inter perspective. So there's really not much to talk about.
Fair enough. Okay, well, in that case, we will... Actually, just before we move on to Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week, Bologna, this should be the week that Riccardo Calafiori completes his transfer to Arsenal. So, yeah, that is another big loss for Bologna, having already lost Joshua Zirkzee to Man United, and Thiago Motta to Juventus as the manager, and now to lose Calafiori as well to Arsenal. They're in the Champions League next season. Huge losses. I think everybody knows it's going to be extremely difficult for them next season. But they are potentially going to sign Mats Hummels as the replacement to Calafiori. Put in an offer for him, contract until a 1-year contract only. They're waiting for an answer this week. We'll find out this week whether Hummels accepts that offer. What do you make of Hummels to Bologna?
I thought it was a bad joke when I saw it. Vincenzo Italiano playing with a high line and Mats Hummels in the middle of that. Has everyone lost their minds? Like, what are we doing here? It reads like a joke. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, to me, that just screams desperation. And that they just need someone to make up the numbers. And it's insanity to me. I think we had a question on our Q&A pod about, we've praised Sartori for being brilliant, and as he should be, but this summer has been a disaster by him and Bologna. They should have known that Motta was leaving and that Zirkzee and Calafiori were leaving, and they seem and okay, if you want to go after Vincenzo Italiano, I understand that it's a good get, but to not have anything prepared
seems
for him,
very reactive, doesn't it?
It just seems like, oh shit, what do we do? And then Hummels, of all people, who Nagelsmann left out of the Germany squad, not because he wasn't good enough, but because he was too slow, because he likes to play with a high defensive line.
Yeah, it's because he wants to play with a high defensive line. Yeah, that was why.
You don't play with Mats Hummels. He's never been he's never been fast. So what do you do now? To me, it's just madness, absolute madness. And it just, I think it's just a waste of a Champions League spot now. Just a complete waste of a Champions League spot. The way it seems now, they don't have any plans.
It definitely feels very reactive, their transfer market. I said it as well, maybe a couple of weeks ago. Like Italiano, they've actually worked out. Like it's actually worked out for them in theory. Forget the Hummels deal. It's actually worked out in theory getting Italiano, but it wasn't by design. It was by luck that they got Italiano. It was Motta's gone. Who can we get? And they managed to get him. It wasn't something that they planned months ago. And it feels like that with the market as well. Like who's their replacement?
Which is very strange.
Who's their replacement for Zirkzee? Where is he? Where's their replacement for Calafiori? Oh, let's just rush around and go for Hummels, who, like you said, definitely doesn't suit Italiano style of football.
It's very un-Sartori-like to be this surprised, because everyone knew that Motta was leaving. Everyone knew Zirkzee and Calafiori were leaving because of not because of money and stature, but because of the fact that the deals, the ownership of structure of Zirkzee and Calafiori, we knew they were leaving. It was just a matter of when and where they go. But they are woefully unprepared to go to the next Serie A season, in terms of the transfer market at least, and to play in the Champions League. They're woefully unprepared. So I'm not happy. I'm really upset about this. But look, it's
there's still a month to go. There's still a month and a half.
Still a month to go, and as
Valerio,
and as Valerio said last week on our Lazio deep dive, repeatedly said, "Look, Nima, at the end of the day, the mercato is the mercato, but it's the football on the pitch and the results on the pitch that decide the winners and losers. And we can think what we want, and we can all criticize and theoretically criticize. He was talking about Lazio and Lotito and so on. So we can theoretically criticize them all we want. At the end of the day, if it works on the pitch, it works on the pitch." And he's right about that. But this is not exactly confidence-inducing from Bologna. Let me put it to you that way. I still think Italiano is Bologna Italiano is ideal for both club and manager. I think that's where he should be. But you also have to give him players that he can play his football, right? And who knows? I mean, Italiano is known as a coach to give young players a chance. So maybe he'll just go to the Primavera squad and promote a couple of kids, and then you'll be happy.
I think you're the one that's moaned the most about youngsters today, Nima, not me.
Well, no, I'm not moaning about it. I just think that it's a problem that we've spoken about, and I think it's a valid point where Como can't even play any youngsters. I mean, then we have an issue.
On that note, actually, we should probably say that we will hopefully be able to answer some of those questions, because this week, Nima, on the pod, we have
Andrea Loiacono, who's a scout. I'm just trying to find his bio so I don't say wrong what he does.
Data analyst, no?
He's a match analyst for the Italy under-17 national team that won the Euros earlier this summer. So we have him on the pod, and we're going to talk about youth development and how data is used and all that stuff. So we'll be doing a really long discussion and deep dive on youth development, and also.
And we are going to ask him, just so everybody knows, we are going to ask him how they feel within the youth setup in Italy, the under-17s, the under-19s, about these youngsters that they are developing. And as I'm speaking now, Italy are doing really well again in the Euro under-19s, and that these players never get a chance in senior football. Like, how they feel about that. Do they feel let down? We're going to ask him. I mean, we'll see what answer we get, because he works for the federation, obviously. But we will delve into that, because it certainly is a problem, especially, and that's been also one of the most noticeable things from the transfer market in Serie A so far this summer is, where are the Italians? Like, what Italians are moving? Where are the youngsters moving to Italian clubs, the top Italian clubs? We've not seen any. Who are they? Where are the Italians that are moving this summer in Serie A? To Serie, what Italians are being bought by Serie A clubs this summer? Where are they?
Yeah.
Where are they? So it's a concern right now.
And meanwhile, the under-19s are in the semi-final of the Euros.
Yeah, which brings us on nicely to Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. So my Baggio of the week is Francesco Camarda from Italy's under-19s. He becomes the youngest scorer in the history of the under-19 Euros, having won the under-17 Euros and being the star, the player of the tournament, and top goal scorer as well in that tournament, if I'm not mistaken, when Italy's under-17s won the Euros at the start of the summer. He was also chosen to be in the Italy under-19 squad as well. And they're playing the Euro 2024 under-19 Euros right now. in Northern Ireland. Italy have topped their group. They're in the semi-finals. They're in a group with Northern Ireland, the hosts, Ukraine, and Norway. And they won their first two games against Norway and Northern Ireland. They lost their last game to Ukraine. It was a dead rubber. They played all their reserves because they were already top of the group. Kamada started as a sub in the first game, came on, and then he started the second game against Northern Ireland, and he scored both goals to become, as I said, the youngest scorer in the history of the under-19 Euros. Two fantastic finishes, clinical finishes, and he's 16. Remember, he's 16 years old, and he's playing with players who are 2 to 3 years older than him. So once again, kind of shows the potential of this youngster. So let's hope that he can actually develop, unlike all these other young talents that we have. But yeah, Italy under-19s look good.
No, I hope they go to. I hope they win it under 19s. I mean, it would be pretty cool for Kamada to in one summer win the under 17 and under 19 European Championships. I'm not sure that's ever been done before. If I'm
Yeah,
perfectly honest with you.
not in Italy, not by Italy. Definitely, I can't ever think of that.
And then you would have a situation where Italy would have won the two last under 17s and Euros, and then and vice world champions at under 20 and under 19 champions.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's not Italian youth showing their, delivering results, I don't know what is.
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. It looks like, again, I've watched all three games, and they look like another very talented team. They look like they've got some good players. Fabio Chiarodio has really impressed me. The left centre back. We're producing a lot of really good left centre backs at the moment. Italian football. It would be nice to produce a right-sided centre back, but he's looked really, really good. He plays in Germany for Mönchengladbach. I mean, like, as we've seen, so many Italian youngsters are leaving Italy because they're not getting chances. He looks really, really good. He's a ball-playing centre-back, really good distribution, some really good long cross-field passes, very good break in the press under pressure. Definitely a ball player. I want to see more of him in terms of the defensive side of things. He'll get tested more in the semis, but he's the one that stood out for me. DiMaggio, centre midfielder, scored a couple of really nice goals as well. The two fullbacks are both from Milan. They've looked pretty good as well. Kevin Zeroli, I think he scored 2 goals. He's from Milan. It's very Milan heavy. So that is certainly because we've spoken a lot about Milan probably going to have no senior players in their starting 11 that will be Italian next season if they buy that right back that they're going for as planned. Calabria drops out of the team. They'll have 0 Italians in their starting 11 next season. They do seem to have some really talented youngsters playing that will play for the new Milan Futuro team next season. We'll see whether Serie A is a high enough level to develop them, which is obviously the concern. But they are producing some young talents that are playing for the Italy under 19 team. So that's good. So they look good. They're probably going to play probably Spain in the semis. France are top of the group in the other group with 6 points. Spain have got 4 points. Turkey have got 1. But France plays Spain in the last game. So if Spain win, then Italy will play France in the semis. If France and Spain draw, it will be Spain. If France win and then Turkey win heavily in their last game, they could potentially overtake Spain. In which case Italy will play Turkey. So I think that game's on Thursday, I believe. So yeah, we'll see what Italy can do and see what Kamada can do. But he's definitely made history again this week. Premface, though, of the week. I've got a cracker here. So it's the Daily Mail doing a story on Calafiori and on how he's going to probably complete his transfer this week. And they call him the new Paola Maldini. The new Paola Maldini, yeah. Not Paolo, Paola. Serie Ass of the week, Nima. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, it's got to be Como. I mean, I don't even. I'm just going to read what they said. They put They put this tweet out. Official statement regarding yesterday's incident during our friendly versus Wolverhampton. Quote: Our club does not tolerate racism and condemns all forms of it in the strongest possible way. We spoke to the defender in question to understand what was said. He told us the comment he made to his co-defender was ignore him. He thinks he's Jackie Chan. Having spoken to our player at length, we're confident this was in reference to the player's name and to the constant references of Channy made by his own teammates on the pitch. As far as our club is concerned, our player did not say anything in a derogatory manner. We're disappointed that the reaction of certain Wolves players has seen the incident blown out of proportion. End quote. Mirvan Suvarso, official representative of the ownership group. Jesus
I love
Christ.
it. Just so people know, this is in reference to accusations of racism against the Como defender who was accused of calling the Wolves' South Korean attacker Hwang Hee-chan Jackie Chan during the game, and that led to a bit of a, I don't know if it was a brawl or it was definitely a fracas on the pitch. Daniel Podence punched the Como player and got sent off. And Wolves have complained. I think South Korea have put in an official complaint with FIFA over this as well. So yeah, I mean, this is just another example of Italian clubs not having a clue when it comes to PR,
Listen,
knowing how to deal with these situations.
Listen, I'm not even gonna go into the discussion of what happened or what didn't happen, what was said, what wasn't said. That's not the point. It's really not the point, because that I don't know what happened. I didn't watch the game. This is what, like, I literally took me 3 minutes going into the show. I wrote what they should have said without going into this ridiculous depths of detail, talking about Jackie Chan. It was just madness. This is what you say. During yesterday's friendly match with Wolverhampton, one of our players was physically attacked after an allegation of having used racist language. We've spoken with the player in question, who categorically denies having used racist language. We have opened an internal investigation to determine what took place. Como are against all forms of discrimination as well as physical violence. We will not be making any more official comments regarding this matter until after our internal investigation has been concluded. That's how you handle it. You do not go into some ridiculous he said, she said that, she said that, he said Jackie Chan. Are you insane? Like, what the hell? Like, he reads like a skit, like a comedy script. Just stop it.
Too much information.
Too much information. Like, what is it? It reads like a schoolyard recollection. Like, oh, Jimmy said that, John said that, Michael said. No, stop it. Be professional, for goodness sakes. And just handle it like a professional football club. And it's just, they, people say they're Indonesian, but look, yes, they are Indonesian. I get that. But it's not exactly like Juve and the other clubs in the Serie A have handled racist allegations really well, have they? I mean, it's just been, or the league itself with a monkey poster, which will never leave my mind, by the way. The chimpanzees colored in every club's colors. I mean, it's just, it's just, I don't even know what to say. It reaches, it's a parody of itself now. It literally is. Serie A fans are just waiting for the next stupid racist scandal now and see how the club or anyone involved in Italian football handles this, mismanages it, and fumbles it worse. Like, you don't need to, just be professional and calm. You can defend your club, your players, you can do it, but you can do it. There's a right way of handling things and a wrong way of handling it. And this is, again, just embarrassing. We've not even begun the season and we've already got one of these instances.
No, they just haven't got a clue. Simple as that. Have not got a clue. Okay, let's leave it at that. As I said, we'll be back later this week. We have a couple of interview episodes lined up. One, as we said, with the under 17 Italy under 17 match analyst, data analyst, for the Italy under-17 national team. And then also we're planning to have a Milan deep dive on their transfer market. So plenty for you guys coming up. Have a great week, everyone. Until next time, ciao, ciao.